Well, welcome to Let Us Reason Together. It is the second day of the week, and it's the show for this time slot because you can tune in every day of the week and hear something going on.
Oh, no sound, Sandi. You were great, and then all of a sudden it just went Mutesville. So today has already been very frustrating. Hi, everybody. So earlier during War Room, Sandi and John's computer went Mutesville, and apparently it's and she couldn't hear me before the show.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. There you go.
Okay. I have no idea what's going on, but my computer today is just like that.
Okay.
It's muting. So, folks, it's going to be an interesting show.
Okay.
But that's okay. So maybe the enemy doesn't want us to say we're going to say, but we're going to say it anyway. And who is with me right now? Well, of course, it's our fearless leader, Mr. Mark David Smith. Yeah, he's the one that's going to fill in the gap. I want to say this, Mark, on the worship team. You know, when you have your whole team together and all of a sudden you're just click because you know each other, and maybe you're singing and you got a cough or emotions are getting to you. Our team has worked together. The other one somebody else just steps in with it. You don't have to say or ask, and that's what we are doing right now. Okay. So when my mic goes, no, not if, then just because we just know how we work, you just jump in. And I'll do the same for you, but you usually don't have once in a blue moon, you have technical issues.
I do. I've had them. Usually it's life-changing.
Well, since you're here, I'm so glad you're here, but you can listen to all my hubbub stuff. That sounds good, right? Yeah, all my stuff. Anyway, it's not hubbub, but it's just the stuff. But I was going to say who I am, but, I'm here from Amarillo Broadcasting, and we got North Carolina and Amarillo represented here. And welcome to everybody in the chat room who's online now and who will be listening later. We are so glad you're a part of this Messianic Lamb Network, this Messianic Lamb family, because you're important to us. But let me tell you what today is, because there's some weird things that are celebrated today.
Hey, maybe we could just call it Amarillo, North Carolina for right now.
Or Amarillina.
Amarillina.
There you go.
North Amarillina.
Anyway, guess what? This is National Cheddar Fries Day. Sounds healthy, doesn't it?
I'm trying to. Well, you know what? Is it plant-based? Yeah, I think it is. A cheddar is plant-based and potatoes are plant-based.
Cheddar? It's plant-based?
Yeah.
Well, it's plant-based in that the cows eat the grass and then produce the milk, which produces, and the whey, which produces the cheddar. I guess
everything starts out plant-based. Okay. So if you're on a plant-based diet.
Okay. Here's the next one, Mark, and we can't do this one right now. It's National Look-alike Day, and you and I look alike, but you're missing the locks.
We
can't do it.
We used to look exactly alike.
Oh, exactly.
Brother and sister extreme, we did.
Exactly. So
maybe if I just do like those people.
Okay, let's do it together. Okay,
yeah, there we go.
There we go. Now they can't tell us apart.
That's right. They'll just have to imagine.
Hey, guess what? My mom's online. Hey, Mom. Shalom, Jerry Shinkus. She still has my dad's name on there. So when I see Jerry, that's my daddy. So yeah, he's still my daddy. He's in heaven now, but he's my daddy. He always will be. Anyway, so welcome Joe and Terry and Mom and everybody else.
Yep. Went mute again. You're just what is the deal? You're like sensitive today.
I'm not even touching my computer.
Yeah, you're like sensitive.
I am.
You know,
I am sensitive. Here's what Amarai would do. Well, today's National Pineapple Upside Down Cake Day, and I love pineapple upside down cake. Do you like it?
Yeah, I do.
I'd like to have some.
Yeah.
It is also
With milk.
what?
With milk.
With milk. All right. You know what?
But it has to be almond milk. You know,
almond milk.
The other is plant-based. I mean, it starts off plant-based.
Well, I want to tell you what today also is, or this month is National Fly a Kite Month, but they canceled it because of COVID. Now tell me, Mark, you're outdoors. You aren't really around a lot of people when you're flying a kite. It's just you and the wind, but you can't do it because of COVID. It's because of the COVID farce. Okay. Again, it's not a farce. It's real, but the hoopla around it is a joke. So isn't that silly? They canceled National Fly a Kite Month.
No, I'm real sure that a bunch of people got together in a meeting and they had two sides to the story. They debated it. They talked about it at length, maybe even as long as 3 or 4 hours. They probably debated back and forth. They looked at all the positives and the negatives of it. They probably analyzed what kites are made out of. They analyzed the string or the rope or anything else. And then they probably talked about the different areas. I mean, if you live in an apartment, you could probably just hang out the balcony of your apartment or a window and let the kite go. They probably debated all of those things and came up with a very rational decision of, no, you can't fly a kite.
That is ridiculous. That is all I have to say. Not what you're saying, but the whole concept of do not be outdoors, because if you're a football field away from somebody, it's too dangerous. Sorry. It frustrates me that the lies of so many. Anyway, it's also grilled cheese month.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, kind of talking about that. Have you been to a store where you have to go in? You have to go like almost through a maze to get into that store, and then once you're in the store, you're as close to everybody as you are normally.
I know.
And all of that, but the out of the store is normal. You go right there. I mean, you could be like right next to 14 people. Have you been in that situation yet?
I have not. They have lines now outside of stores, and they only let so many people in Amarillo.
Yeah.
At least some of them. But once you're in there, we don't have a maze yet. They haven't roped off stuff. Hallelujah. I pray they don't. But once you're in there, you're with everybody else.
Right. That's what I don't get is Walmart, Home Depot, and Lowe's. All three have this maze you have to walk through, and they literally pay people to stand outside and make sure that you go through this maze before you get into the store. Once you walk through the doors, it's it's exactly the same as everything else. I don't really get. I understand the kite thing, but I don't get that.
I do not understand the kite thing, and I don't get any of it. Plainview, Texas is an hour from Amarillo, and they have a maze, and I praise Yah that we do not, because I would be angry. I might protest, and I can tell you right now, my mother does not want me protesting, but I might have to do it. So
they don't like you to protest there. I mean, they don't get it. I mean, if I'm right in the middle of the maze and I'm going, I'm lost. I don't know where to go. How do I get inside now? I'm lost. There's too many different curves to this thing, and they're not amused by it at all. So I mean, it's.
But you know what? If one thing I do appreciate, our mayor in Amarillo has really backed off. And she actually said, well, I never said you had to close your business. She did too. But she says, now, I never said you had to close your business. It was just a suggestion. All of this has just been a suggestion. So, and so you see the traffic in Amarillo has picked up, and I hope some people in Amarillo are informed. And anyway, it's time. The unrest is beginning to happen because people are starting to see the ridiculousness of this whole thing. And I didn't know if you saw this, or it's not our news today, but Alex Jones was in Texas on Saturday, joining at the Capitol, protesting the COVID thing. And I was like, go Alex Jones in Texas. So at the Capitol, rallying the people. Well, anyway, it's time. Don't remain silent. Remember who you are. Remember what kingdom you belong to, people.
Yeah. I might mention we are being affected. The Lamb Network is actually being affected as of late. I have been able to, we do segments of shows, right. Or I do. I go into shows that have segments and divide them up and record them and put intros and outros to them, and then I upload them to YouTube and post them on the website. Well, the problem is that you can't upload to YouTube right now, and haven't been for about 3 days.
Really?
We can do live shows, but
you can't upload.
I had one yesterday that was only 9 minutes long, which is Joe's homeschooling segment from last week's next chapter. And it normally, for a 9-minute episode, it will take about 3 minutes to upload to YouTube. Well, after about 5 hours, it was only 40%. And so I've tried several other ones. It's exactly the same thing. They won't do it. So I go check it out. YouTube's basically saying that there's such high traffic because everybody's at home that, it's hard to get things, be aware that, uploading is going to be hard and that type of thing. Well, I want to know, who is it that is actually able to upload? I mean, why not me? And why is it somebody else? And so I'm kind of putting a disclaimer out there. It's all actually on the website, in the places where you normally go, like our on-demand section on the homepage. If you'll go look right underneath, that header, you'll see that I'm putting the disclaimer out there that there are no more segments for a while. If you, in normal places like Joe's homeschooling video series, what you'll see is the whole show, but I give a timestamp where you can go and find just that segment.
Right.
So anyway, letting everybody know, I tried Vimeo, but Vimeo, you have to pay for all of that stuff. And as it stands right now, I don't have $50 a month to throw into just putting segments up there. So
right.
It's a little inconvenient right now, but so just kind of letting everybody know that's what's going on the Lamb website.
Wow. Well, thank you, Mark. I'm glad to know that. I'm glad to know that for myself personally, actually, as well. Wow. So it's affecting us here at the network. Well, I have
muted. Lost you. Now it says muted.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
All right. Wow. This is going to be a show, isn't it? So this is National Garden Month. And guess what I did yesterday? I mentioned it on the War Room, but John and I put in 4 raised beds. My sister and brother-in-law came down and their grandchildren, and we put 4 big raised beds in our backyard, which is very small, by the way. It takes up almost half our backyard, just putting in 4 by 8 beds. That's how small our backyard is. And by the way, Mom, I wasn't ignoring you. I was outside. So I'll talk to you after the show. So, but It's National Garden Month, and here's my suggestion. Everybody needs to be growing some food, whether it's in some pots and it's just a few things, or whether you can put in a space. Or what I was doing before is I had little kid swimming pools. If you don't want to dig in the dirt and you don't want to pay, I had little kid swimming pools, and that's what was in my yard. There's still some there. Do that. It worked great. It was just I needed to put in more this year. So, and anyway, it's National Garden Month. There's a reason. Go plant. So,
what? National Garden Month.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard National Guard Month. And
National Garden.
I was I was listening very intently, trying to figure out how is she going to go from planting your garden to the National Guard.
I don't know how that would work. That would be crazy
there. But if you'd like, I'll be more than happy to. No, never mind.
Well, folks, you know what? We don't need to talk about the rest of the stuff because Mark and I are having a good time just doing what we do. Huh?
Yeah, you got more to do it. I'm not on no time. Oh, you are.
Well, I just want everybody. I want you to be able to talk your segments. There's lots of comments. Well, okay, I'll tell you. The rest of it was just some factoids. Yeah, I had some factoids. So in 1836, the U.S. territory Wisconsin. I don't know. When I hear Wisconsiners say Wisconsin, it's different. So if you're out there, just say it for me. It was created by the U.S. Congress. Yeah.
What was? What was? Yeah, I heard Wisconsin so many times, I actually lost what you were talking about.
It was created by the U.S. Congress.
The Wisconsin was?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Robert E. Lee resigned from the U.S. Army in 1861. Of course, we know today he's been villainized, and because of the rewrite of history, which is ridiculous. People forget all the things that he's done. Yes, he was the Confederate leader, but he also did great things for the Army of the U.S., and he's a great man. And of course, now he's been villainized. I miss your Civil War guys.
Uh-huh.
You used to have on the program. Oh, I'd love to hear them.
I did, and I was just thinking of that also. What's interesting about those guys they are from the South. They are from North Carolina and do not have anything positive to say about Abraham Lincoln at all.
I know that it was informative.
That was when I moved to North Carolina onto the property of these guys that lived there, and we used to sit around and they used to tell me the stories. It was amazing what we don't know about Abraham Lincoln.
That's why we need to have him back someday.
Wow. And both of them would be more than happy to be on too. So that's a good idea.
Maybe we could do that on the Shafter or something, have a show.
We should do that sometime.
Because this is not really my show. This is John's show.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
but
not really
Shafter's mine. So we should do that. That's a plan.
All right.
So
I like it.
Anyway,
I didn't understand how Robert E. Lee though founded Wisconsin. How did all that work?
He did not. But in 1861, he resigned from the Army.
From Wisconsin?
No, from the U.S. Army.
Oh, I see. Okay. Was he in the National Guard and did gardening?
We'll have to ask him that in heaven, when heaven comes to earth. You know what I mean? We'll have to ask him that one day in the sweet by and by.
Well, I heard that he wasn't a very nice man, so maybe he won't be there.
Well, you know what? That was history rewritten.
Okay.
All right. 1902, scientists Marie and Pierre Curie isolated the radioactive element of radium in 1902. And in 1912, for you baseball fans, Fenway Park opened as the home of the Boston Red Sox. And in 1972, the manned lunar module from Apollo 16 landed on the moon. But we have many that believe we never did land on the moon.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
People actually believe that.
Oh yeah.
Huh. Wow.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Although I will say this, John and I were looking some things up, and the supposed footage we have of Mars, we found that exact, was it Greenland or was it Iceland?
Greenland.
We found the exact footage
Wait,
in
wait,
Greenland.
wait.
Seriously, it was like, that's the same planet. So you just never know. There's a little truth sometimes mixed in the lies. Who knows? Anyway,
Wait,
what?
Whose voice was that?
It was John's.
John who?
John Craig. He's almost out the door.
But we're doing his show.
We are doing his show, and he's in the room. Well, he's actually in the kitchen, right over there.
Imagine that.
You have another thing you'd like to say, or at least pop your head in for a second?
No, we don't want to see him on the show.
Since we're doing your show?
That negates everything that we're doing, is for him to actually. Oh my gosh! Oh, we have to. Here, hold up.
So bad. At least come here. And say
come back. You got a little booger there, buddy.
Don't do that.
Hey, John, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
What about your wife's nose?
Don't you even?
Have you ever picked your wife's nose, Mark?
That's gross, John.
Well, if I said so, I'd be in deep trouble. If I said one way or the other, I would be.
You know how you really ask that question is, have you stopped picking your wife's nose?
Oh, that's so sick.
Because how do you answer that?
Yeah, that's a good one, man. That's sick.
That is
brother.
gross.
Let me tell you what. That's deep.
That's
man,
deep.
That is taking it.
I'm going to let you guys have the show now, because this discussion is gross.
Well, you know how they do the coronavirus test?
They pick your nose?
They get that big old long swab and put it all the way back.
Really?
All the way out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's how they do that.
I didn't know that. I haven't been tested for it, but
us either. I have no idea if he knows what he's talking about.
I've heard stories, and I've heard stories that it's very uncomfortable.
Well, here's a story I've heard is that if you drink a Corona a day, it'll keep the virus away.
Well,
okay.
But we had some people that weren't buying Corona beer because they thought it caused the virus.
Believe that? I mean,
that is hilarious. In fact, you go to the store, if you walk by that section, you'd see all the beer gone except the Coronas.
Unreal. Yeah. That is just that. I'm sorry. That's stupid.
It is.
They're stocking up on beer and toilet paper and leaving the Corona.
I'm sorry. That's plain outright stupid. You are a stupid person if you didn't buy Corona beer just because of this. Oh my gosh. I've never heard such ridiculousness.
I agree.
Wow.
Well, that's good, Mr. Craig. You go on, get to work, make some money.
Oh, okay. Well, hey guys, I love you. I've missed you guys a lot. Mark, I've missed doing the show with you.
Yep. We've missed you a lot too. Yep, we have.
I just want to make sure y'all hadn't forgotten me here.
Yeah. No. I didn't recognize your voice. I thought there was, we do have video of a man roaming around in your house during next chapter. So I just kind of thought maybe it was that guy that roams around in your house talking to Sandi and
Oh, guess what? That just reminded me, because I thought of the man and my truck was hit yesterday by a forklift.
By a what?
Forklift.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It makes me very sad. It was a kid. He felt so bad at Lowe's. It was at Lowe's.
Oh my gosh. And so is your truck okay?
It's got a dent in it, and John needs to take care of that today because I want the dent fixed. I looked at it, I said, that's my baby. And he said, I'm sorry. So his manager wasn't too happy. He was like, I have to go find a form. I was like,
yeah, I don't doubt.
that's the sad news.
So,
Because John made me go back to the store and take care of it by myself. He did not go with me, but my sister was with me, so it helped.
We were working.
Whatever.
so am I supposed to ask, are you okay?
I was standing on the outside, but thank you.
Okay.
And I completely missed it. I didn't even notice it happen. And John knew. And then, but he sort of broke it to me easily because he knew I'd be very sad. So anyway, I mean, it's not too bad. It's the tailgate. It's the tailgate that's messed up.
It kind of puckered it.
It puckered it. It puckered the tailgate.
Oh, that ain't right.
Anyway, well, you know what? We've had a lot of fun hanging out and just joking around, but it's time to go to our tour portion. What do you think? You think it is, Mark?
I guess we have to.
So, well, all my thoughts, here's what you got to do. You just finish teaching whatever I'm teaching. Okay?
Do what?
You just finished teaching if I get muted, whatever I'm teaching.
Oh, of course. I know exactly what you're thinking. So
I am going to be stepping into your ground a little bit today.
That's cool.
Because, of course, we have a double portion this week, Torah. And I'm not going to like bring you this revelational nugget, but I want to deal with something that you and I need to deal with in our lives constantly. I am around people all the time who talk about who's wounded them and hurt them. And they still, when they speak of it, speak with frustration or anger or passion and disdain. And what it shows me, unforgiveness is still huge in people's lives. And forgiveness, guys, is not something that's a one-time thing. Sometimes you have to walk it out. And until the time when there's not an emotion that's brought up, when you think of that incident or that person, you still have some forgiveness you need to walk out. Now, you may say, what does that have to do with the Torah portion? Well, we're talking about leprosy. We're talking about uncleanness in this Torah portion. Now, I'm not relating unforgiveness to leprosy, but yet in part it is, because the people had to cover their mouths and cry, Tameh, unclean, unclean. And you have all sorts of things that make you unclean. Absolutely. A dead body, emissions, menstrual cycle. There's just a whole bunch of things. And specifically, we have the leprous person who is looked at not by the doctor, but by the priest, because the priest was the doctor. But we also know that the tabernacle, the temple, is supposed to represent life and purity and holiness. Now, I want you to also think that you are supposed to be the temple of Yah. We don't have a physical temple here, but he did say that you, as kings and priests in the order of Melchizedek, you are the temple. Now, what is unforgiveness going to do? It's going to defile that. In fact, the word says, if you can't forgive, he can't forgive. That's pretty powerful stuff. Why? Because we carry that defilement, that unclean thing within us. We carry it around, and most believers justify it. Well, they hurt. I don't care who's hurt you. I don't care what they did to you. It could be horrific. You let it go, because God can't even work. He can't move. He can't take care of them. And he can't even have his vengeance if it needs to be done, because you're carrying it and holding it on. And what it's doing, it's defiling you. It's causing sickness and disease in you. And it makes you unclean. You have violated that temple of Yah where he's supposed to reside with things that shouldn't be there. You've brought sin in the camp, and you're not supposed to do that because you're unclean. Matthew 5:23-24 said, Yeshua said that if you come before the altar to bring an offering and remember that you have aught against your brother, or your brother has aught with you, you are to leave your gift and go make things right for your brother first. Why does he say that? Because unforgiveness creates a state of uncleanness. And it's forbidden in Yah's presence. You may wonder why you're not seeing him move, why you have issues. It's because there is unforgiveness in your life and it makes you unclean. No one is allowed to enter through the gates, his gates, unless they're cleansed by the blood of Yeshua Messiah. That's what we have to be. We must have clean hands and a pure heart. Now, remember I said the Metzora, the leper, had to cry out, unclean, unclean, and cover their mouth. Why did they cover their mouth? Maybe because the unclean things were coming out of their mouth. Okay, we're talking some spiritual things here, okay, folks? And usually when somebody's angry or there's unforgiveness, they speak with guile about the thing, the incident, the person, the people. You can hear their voice change, maybe even see their face change. Why? Because that thing is alive and they may be justified initially you hear their story and you think, wow, I can't believe that, but you shouldn't take that on, because then you become the person that's helping spread the Lashon Hara and you become unclean too. Okay. Lashon Hara is gossip, guys. When we talk about the people and the things, we cannot do that. But I'm also talking about unforgiveness. Yah says, repent before the Lord and ask forgiveness. That's what you need to do. You need to repent, and just go and look at Leviticus 14:4-9. Go through that, because every element of the Metzora, of the leper, has to do, here I'm stepping on your feet a little bit. It has to do with Yeshua. We think about the scarlet robe that Yeshua wore. They put a scarlet robe around him. Well, what about the scarlet thread? Okay, we're just going to read it. Leviticus 14:4-9. Then the priest shall command to take for him who is to be cleansed 2 living and clean birds, cedar wood, scarlet, and hyssop. And the priest shall command that one of the birds be killed in an earthen vessel over running water. As for the living bird, he shall take it, the cedar wood and the scarlet and the hyssop, and dip them and the living bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the running water. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed from the leprosy, and shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird loose in the open field. He who is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes, shave off his hair, and wash himself in water, and that he may be clean. After that he shall come into the camp, and shall stay outside his tent for 7 days. But on the 7th day he shall shave all the hair off his head, and his beard, and his eyebrows. All his hair he shall shave off. He shall wash his clothes and wash his body in water, and then he shall be clean. Every one of those elements we see in Messiah Yeshua as he's going towards the crucifixion, as he's being crucified. So we already talked about the scarlet robe being removed, the scarlet thread that was bound the bird. Now look at the hyssop. He was offered hyssop, right? In John 19:28-29, it talks about that. They put hyssop. They put it to his mouth. They put it, and then immediately you think about the blood and the water that the bird was covered in blood and water. Well, blood and water flowed from the side of Yeshua to cleanse us out of his side. And living water is supposed to flow from your belly. All of those things are bringing elements of what we see, the Metzora, the leper, the person who was unclean. We see those elements in the Messiah, Yeshua. Those things that cleansed him, that made him clean. Now we look at the bird. What about the dove that came upon Yeshua when he said, when Yah said, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased? He was like the sacrificial bird. And we're like the bird that's set free as we're washed in the blood and the water. All because of the sacrificial bird who's done nothing wrong. But we see all of it put together. But my main point here is that we need that, because we are defiling the temple. And I'm telling you, I talk with believer and believer, counsel with believer after believer that have so much unforgiveness. And we've got to let that go, because it puts a barrier between you and Yeshua, you and Jesus, puts a barrier in what he's trying to do in your life, or what he's trying to do in other people's lives, because we're holding them captive. We're speaking out those vile, and we're a believer placing a curse on other believers. And what we do when we talk of the incident, we just reinforce our feelings. We've got to let it go. I want to be a clean vessel, pure before him. I don't want to have aught against anybody, even if it's deserved, no matter what. And there's been some hard things that have happened. There's hard things that have happened to my son. And he says, I don't hold anything against him. That's the attitude we need to have towards our brother or sister. We don't know the path that they've crossed. They may be wrong, but we need to let it go and forgive. Let's stop being as the unclean vessel and the leper, saying one thing, but in reality, we do another. We're still picking and choosing which commands to walk out, because we think we are justified in the way we feel. Guys, let it go. So I told you it's not a revelational teaching today, but it's a teaching that we need to be reminded of, because you may wonder, why are things not right? Why can't I get over this thing? Well, first off, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And if he can so hold you captive with those events, with what that person did in the past, then you're living in your past and you're not fulfilling your future, what he wants you to do, because you're still bound. And you need to be free. And the only way to do that, you may have to say, I forgive. And you may say it with vile the first few times. And you pray for that person or that thing or those people. But as you continue down this journey, you're going to find release and freedom. And then you can be clean again. That's what I got, Mark. It's really an exhortation.
Well, it's really good. And it is something that we need to hear not only every year, but on a regular basis. And
on a regular basis.
That's why it's in not just one portion, it's in several portions.
But it's so big. Even recently, I was talking with someone and they were talking of, well, this happened when I was young and this, and they're angry and it was like 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
And it's not just in one,
Sure.
I see it all the time in our congregation and outside of our congregation, and people just don't get it. And that kind of message needs put down and put down and put down. It's more important than discussing how to conjugate or what this Hebrew word means, because it's a life-altering thing. It's a life-altering thing.
Well, let's look at it from a different perspective, and this is how I handle different situations that I become. Let me finish sentences. I'm so bad at this. I become immune. I become to a point where this no longer affects me, or I can't think this way. If I can't forgive somebody, let's just take it because this is what we're talking about. What I have always been able to do, and I don't know why I'm different than anybody else, but I can make myself look at different perspectives. And first of all this that you're talking about is literally a physical manifestation of a spiritual thing.
Right.
And which 99% of everything that we do and happen to us, is basically that. I heard in a movie just a couple of days ago, somebody said, this is not my place to tell that story. So when somebody else was talking about somebody, and it was literally gossip, it was something, their response was, it's not my place to hear the story. It's not my place to tell that story. That's a story. What you're saying right there is a story. It's not my place. It's not what I need, and it's not what you need for me to hear that story or even to tell that story. And what I have been able to do in my life is to take things from a different perspective and be able to see things possibly from another person's point of view. And if you know somebody that's real prone to telling gossip or talking about other people instead of themselves, if there is a way that you can turn the story around to seeing it from that person's perspective, from not only the person telling the gossip, but the person they're talking about. If you could get that around, if you could, because they're wanting you to talk about that. If somebody's gossiping about somebody else, they're wanting you to respond. And another way to look at it is if somebody is telling you gossip, it's because you've listened to them before.
You bought it. You were the purchaser of it.
That's right. And they know they can tell you that story. You can still be friends with somebody that's a gossiper, but if they won't be friends with you because you won't listen to their story about people, then is it really somebody that you want to be friends with? I mean, if it's a family member, then you just got to work it a different way. You got to keep switching the story around. You got to keep doing something that will cause them to, the next time they want to tell you a story about somebody else, and 99.9% of the time they're not even involved in that story. It's just something they know, they've heard by somebody else, or maybe they witnessed, but they're not even involved in it. You got to get that story switched around. You've got to learn perspectives. You've got to see things from other people's point of view. And that's one of the reasons why I love movies so much, is because what I take out of a lot of movies are people's personalities and perspectives. And so, it's just, that's my way of seeing it, is that, and maybe this will help somebody to literally stop that in their life. Or if you're a gossiper, you're the one's got to deal with it. But I would work on seeing things from a perspective where, especially if you know something about somebody because you witnessed it, not that you heard it, because you witnessed it, then you pray for that person a specific way, and have I don't even pray, Lord, show me the situation, show me what's going on. I don't want to know. I really don't. If it's something negative, I really don't want to know. Just, Lord, if you'll deal with this, then fine, it'll be good. And thank you, Lord, for wiping it from my memory or whatever, which is really hard to do. But anyway, that's my perspective on it. That's the way I take those things. Try not to go there. If it's a family member, man, it's hard. It's hard because you gotta be family with people, and especially if you have a history of gossiping yourself, and people know that's why people come to you, and that's why people talk to you, because you have a history of it yourself. It's a big deal to make a witness out of the fact that I don't do that anymore.
Well, you've got to remember that if you are the listener to gossip, you are just as guilty, because you're as you said, there would be no gossip if you weren't the vessel receiving. And then we have this tendency to take on the other person's emotions. So it's a big cycle of uncleanness.
Sure.
There you go.
Sure.
Anyway,
I'm
well,
with
that's
you.
what we have for that. But I think it's a word that each of us should, what Mark said, what I said, we need to take hold and we need to examine our lives during this counting of the Omer. Actually, every day of our life, we should be doing that because we want to be as close to Yah as we can. We don't want anything in the way. But it's news time, folks. Yeah, it's news time. I have a piece of news for you. Of course, I think we've been sort of putting that throughout the show a little bit, but you know.
It's all there.
Yeah, it is. So stay tuned after this. Well, I have one for you today. This is from WorldNet Daily. Big Brother expands government drones now tracking Americans' body temperatures without permission. So look up in the skies, folks. There might be a drone trying to take your body temperature. Who knows? It might take your blood pressure and everything else. I don't know how that would happen, but you know. Oh, yeah, that's what they're wanting us to do with that little thing inserted in our skin, that vaccine that okay. We're not going there today because that's not what this is about. But what we are talking about, our drones are out there taking your temperature because if they think that you're running between, I think, 99 and 103, they're going to do something with that information. Now, how do you know that? Well, in Volusia County, Florida, home to Daytona Beach and the popular tourist destination, the sheriff's office has more than a dozen drones that it can put in the air to make sure people are practicing social distancing and taking your temperature. Yeah, according to Fox News, Kim Andrade had an encounter with one of these drones as she walked along the beach. She took a few photos of the drone, which emitted a warning through its speaker saying, "This is the Volusia Sheriff's Office. Please adhere to social distancing guidelines." The drone told Andrade. Yeah, it speaks. It speaks. Well, anyway, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office currently has 18 total, and they're deploying them to disperse people who aren't social distancing properly so they don't have to actually get their hands on them and get contaminated. Anyway, unfortunately, they said, the sheriff's office, in law enforcement, we can't practice social distancing. People are still committing crimes. People are still being knuckleheads. And people are still have these pop-up block parties. People are still gathering, in other words. Ooh, we should not be by each other. Yes, that's a sarcastic statement from me. With the drones, Chitwood from the sheriff's office said they could break up the gatherings without risking the lives of the police officers. We can't say, "Hey, you in the blue." We can say, "Hey, you in the blue shirt. We're watching you." Well, guess what, folks? I think you're being watched anyway. We're no longer in the place we once were. We're being watched. But now as well, they actually have drones that will take your temperature. And they said that is all apparently very necessary and won't erode the trust in law enforcement. Anyway, the drones are equipped with a device known as an FLIR, not at all creepy, right? And which can detect people's temperatures in the range between, as I said, I got that wrong though, it's between 99 and 105 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's say you have 103 fever, that'd come in handy and let us know at a glance. This is what they said. Are you someone who possibly has the virus? Do we need to make sure you have extra precautions? Sergeant Tim Herenkofer, the head of Daytona Beach drone unit, said. Anyway, I just find it very interesting that if it's not just, and by that, this thing isn't just in Florida. In Connecticut, the mayor touted the fact that police have launched their drone, which will be used to remind residents of social distancing, taking temperatures, et cetera, et cetera. So if we haven't had enough infringement on our rights, on our person, we're now having this. Guys, you cannot take your rights lightly and just assume they're always going to be there. If you let the powers that be invade your privacy, enter your home, do these things, those rights won't be restored. Have you ever thought about taxes? They tax you. Do they ever revoke those taxes once that building project or whatever's over? No, they don't. It's the same with this. We cannot go quietly, folks, because There's powers out there that want one world socialistic communistic government. There are people out there. Here's an opinion. This is an opinion piece of mine right now. The left, the liberals, particularly the Democrats. I mean, there's Republicans that aren't too great too, but the Democrats in particular, the liberal side of the US, that want a completely socialistic, communistic country. In fact, that is their goal. And that's where you're going when you give up your rights to everything. And, you know, let's just say right now we have people that are martial lawing in place voluntarily, but times are changing. Anyway, that is my opinion / some fact piece with a lot of Sandi opinion. You don't have to agree with it, guys. It's okay. But I'm passionate when it comes to that thing. I like the Constitution of the United States. I think it needs to stay intact. And I think we need to quit thinking it's a living document and that the powers that be can invade. It's the government is of the people, by the people, for the people. And it says that if despotism and things rise up, it is our duty. It is our duty to rise up and overthrow. I'm just saying. Okay, Mark.
Let's see. I think amendment number 537 in the Constitution says, "Rise up against the drones. Bring your guns along with you at all time and shoot them down." That's amendment number 518 in the Constitution.
Well, what do you think of a drone taking your temperature? And by the way, it probably can do other things to you too. We also know that drones carry out specific killings of people now. What is it? It's not called killings. Anyway, it is contract killing, so to speak, but in the legal way, according to the government. But they do all sorts of things already. What do you think now that a drone is watching you and invading your body?
Well, if I were an alien, then, you know, it might not show up on there at all. And then they would be able to tell that I was an alien because my temperature is not between 99 and 105, I guess. So, you know, I don't have anything to say about it except that, what are you going to do? And, what are you going to do?
You know what?
Now, see, in one of the latest episodes of Star Trek Discovery, Spock was accused of killing 3 people, and they had it on camera in the room where he was at, and they proved it. He said he didn't do it, but they proved that he killed 3 people, security guards, and because they had the video footage. But when Spock's sister actually checked everything out and did her own research, she found that the camera could also show the heat signature of Spock, and found out that it wasn't really Spock because it didn't match his heat signature. So they had doctored the film with a different, superimposed figure on there. And when you actually looked at it, it was a different heat signature. So, I'm just saying a lot of things that are done today are based on Star Trek episodes.
True.
So,
well, how many things have been doctored for people to try to prove somebody's point or to make them guilty or innocent? I mean, they do that, folks. Guess what? It happens.
Yeah.
That's why you got to be under. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and so it doesn't make any difference. I think one of our naiveties, our gullibilities, is to believe that just because on the side of the police car it says "we care," that doesn't necessarily mean they care. But let me balance this out. not all police or sheriffs or people, that are working for the police force are bad people. There are good people within our government system and our patrols and that type of thing. There are, but yet they are sworn to uphold whatever laws that are put into effect. So whether or not they agree or disagree with all these things, so you got to keep a balance there. I have to. I can't just believe that everybody's against me. I mean, all of government, all of the police force, everything's against me. I can't believe that. I just can't. So,
well, I think there's a few good ones out there, but anyway, that is our news segment, folks. That's our news segment. But now we have another segment. It's a great segment. It's Mark's segment. It's the Brit Shah segment. And you want to hear everything he has to say. There you go, Mark.
Oh, what an introduction for something that is really not that big a deal. Because it's a double portion. We have a double Brit Hadashah portion also. The first one being from Luke 2:22 to 35, where Yeshua presented at the temple, and that's a good one. We also have Mark 1:35 through 45, where Yeshua is healing people, preaching to people, and I think it's interesting. I'm going to go for the second one here. The little, it's not very much to it, but Yeshua went out and was teaching people, and he was going from town to town, and he wanted people to come out and listen to what he had to say. It's Mark 1:35. It's extremely early in the in the portrayal of what he did. Whether how chronologically put together this is, I just don't have a clue, except Mark is very meticulous about what he puts out there. The second part to it is where Yeshua cleanses a leper, and of course this goes along with what Sandi had talked about earlier. I think it kind of follows along. Let me read starting from 40. This is Mark 1:40. Says that a leper came to him, imploring him and kneeling to him, if you will, you can make me clean. And of course this follows what is said before, is that he's been going throughout Galilee and casting out demons, preaching to the different people. Yeshua, moved with pity, he stretched out his hand and touched him and said to him, I will be clean. And immediately the leprosy left the man, and he was made clean. And Yeshua sternly charged him and sent him away at once, and said to him, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer for your cleansing what Moses commanded for proof to them. But he went out instead and began to talk freely about it and spread the news, so that Yeshua could no longer openly enter a town. It's interesting here. Kind of goes along with both things that we've kind of talked about throughout here, in that Yeshua cleansing him this way, and I have to look at this from the Hebrew perspective, in that the people that came to him, he was in Galilee, he was in Jewish territory. These are people that are raised with the law. They know the law. They don't know any other way. It's a country, especially during those days, that was, even though there was Roman rule in the country, it's still the laws that were abided by the people were the laws of God. It was Torah. It was just the way it was. I mean, it's even proven here that Yeshua told him, go to your priest and offer cleansing what Moshe commanded, and proof to them all had to do with Torah law. And so these people, that's the only thing they knew. So this leper was a Jewish person that was already abiding by the law, yet they were a leper. And, we've kind of talked about how that becomes to some extent. Yeshua, healing him with his ability. They came to him, which was very unusual, but only let's take it from another perspective. Normally a Jewish person would be having leprosy, would not just go to somebody and say, lay your hands on me and cleanse me. I mean, it didn't happen. It wasn't a part of the law. It wasn't what they did. Matter of fact, most people, pretty much everybody, stayed away from a leper. So to go to Yeshua solely comes out of the fact that they saw something different, even outside of Jewish law and what they know is Jewish law. The people are doing something different because of what they see and what they know that is happening with other people. They don't stop to think about the spiritual aspects of it. Why are people being healed? The only people that really wondered that and confronted Yeshua were the governmental leaders, the Torah teacher leaders, were the Pharisees, Sadducees, were the only ones coming to Yeshua questioning. Everybody else just came. They didn't care whether it was Jewish law, whether or not to be healed or not. It's what they needed. And it's kind of the same thing as what I see a lot in today's church, in today's religious system, is that people don't necessarily know Bible protocol, what's politically correct within the Bible, what to do, not to do. They mostly follow what they see. If they've heard about this certain thing from somebody that they trust, they've heard about what's going on at this church, whether or not they know anything about the church or the doctrine of that church or anything like that, they're going to go check it out. They're going to see if they can have it for themselves. It makes no difference. I mean, you could have a Muslim church, but if a Muslim synagogue or whatever they're called is mosque, there's somebody down there laying hands on people and people are getting healed, I guarantee you're going to have a multitude of Christians that are going to go right down to that mosque and also want to be healed. They don't care what religion it is. They don't care who's doing what they hear and what they see and everything is what they go by. They don't think of whether or not is this spiritual, is this demonic, maybe even, because I mean, just because something good has happened, Satan works in the demonic realm, and if you can't discern that, you can't see the difference here. And I'm kind of making a point of people in general just go where the flow is and whatever concerns them. And when Yeshua sternly charged him and sent him away and said, see that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest and offer. He literally was telling him, don't go spreading the news here of something that doesn't line up with God's law, with God's halakha, his teaching and instruction, his way of life. Don't go spreading the news out there, because it's going to get to a degree that isn't really understood by the people. I am healing people, but I'm healing based on the laws of God. I'm walking in the halakha of God, not with somebody else. And so be careful who you say it to. Don't tell anybody. Just go be cleansed and go along your way and appreciate it and appreciate God. So that's my perspective on how I see it.
Well, I like, thank you. It was all good. I mean, it's good. But you said something in there that's very poignant. That's so applicable today, because so many times we in the Messianic Hebrew Roots movement are void of the supernatural.
True.
And because of that, people will go to any source, but it probably won't be our source to see the power and demonstration of the God they serve.
Exactly.
And that is a sad statement, because Yeshua wants to be the center and the source of everything. But as you said, there is a counterfeit source out there. Even the Pharaoh's people could duplicate some of the so-called miracles that Moshe did. Exactly. And we need to be the center and the source, of the place where people go to get food, where the people go to get water, but also the people go for healing and to see the demonstration of power. It needs to be so common that people will stop looking at the counterfeit or even for the counterfeit. And if they hear, oh, well, in this mosque over here, this person was healed, they won't go running there because they know the true source, but they don't see a source of the power. And so it's easy right now in this day and this time to keep silent because it's not there. But there may be a day and a time soon where that is the only alternative. People will have to draw close and step up to the plate, and where we will have to be hidden, because back in Yeshua's day, as they made known, then those that were trying to destroy him and what he was doing were right there waiting. And there's a day and an hour where that's going to happen too. But I pray that even as that hour comes, that the bride will once again walk with that same miracle power of Yeshua. So Amen. What you said is perfect. And it's all the whole thing today is we just need to make sure we're right and that we're pressing in for sure.
Serve the right God.
Serve the right God.
Yeshua, and I've said this a million times, Yeshua never said go out and get people saved. He never said no, huh? Yeah, go make disciples. What does go make disciples mean? Go teach the people the right ways of God. Teach people the laws of God, and let them know and let them make a decision whether or not they count the cost, whether or not they want to enter into this or not, because it's not, I think that's the biggest problem throughout history is that people went out and got people saved. It was all about getting the numbers into the kingdom. It wasn't about people making a choice whether or not they wanted to make a commitment or not to this. Last night, Darryl and I talked on his show, Raising Up Men of Valor. It really has to do with commitment. Are you being committed to the relationship that you have with your spouse, or are you just entering into marriage for whatever reason? There's a million different reasons to marry, but it's the same thing entering into a covenant with God. You need to count the cost. No man goes into battle without first counting the cost, whether or not I want to do this or not, and you should get from all the different realms. But it's the same thing with, going with every wind of doctrine. And we are going to talk about this Thursday on, what was the name of that show?
The Next Chapter.
Oh, the Next Chapter. That's right. We're going to talk about that because I may get a little heavy on believers this Thursday, but if you don't want me to get heavy,
I'm looking forward to it.
I just won't come on.
Nope. That show is about ministry. That show is about touching us where we're at. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
So, well, folks, guess what? Thank you, Mark, for that wonderful segment. Thank you for being on the show with me. But it's time to go.
Thank John. Thank John. I thank John for letting us do this.
I think he asked me to do it. So anyway, thank you, John, for letting us do it. So anyway, until next Monday morning at this time, you'll see us together for this show. But like Mark said, you'll see us together for another show on Thursday called The Next Chapter. And don't forget, Walking in Spirit and Truth tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central. Yeah, we hope to see you there too. But we have enjoyed our time together today. So we are going to say shalom to you until next time. Bye.
Gotta go. Susan's here.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.